Thank you for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay today. This is a different kind of show. This is a live show. This is not one of our scripted or structured shows because of the events that are going on currently at our nation's capital. We are going to cover some of the news that's going on as well as our personal feelings about it. This may be a short show. This may be a long show. We're going to be airing some of our emotions and our feelings, and as well as discussing some news and events as far as what we're seeing and everything else, as well as some other things that are breaking at the same time that are some good news, preferably. So, but right now, what I can say, and then we'll go into that, is that a group of Trump supporters, white national terrorists, has stormed the Capitol, broke into the Capitol, um, carrying MAGA flags and carrying Confederate flags, and stormed the Capitol, broke into the Capitol, even made it to the Senate well without being stopped. There's pictures. You can look pretty much anywhere and see the different pictures of them breaking in and doing this. There was at least a report of one person being critically wounded, um, uh, and a shots being fired. Uh, Pence was hurried out and rushed off to a secured location. And you have some more information that just came out about they're getting more officers on the scene right now. Right. That yeah, so that's something that the DOD initially, as far as for the DC area, was not sending out the National Guard in that particular area, and the DC. No, I did. They didn't have a problem. Right. Yeah. And well, and here's the thing: they had no problems doing that with Black Lives Matter. They had SWAT teams on the Capitol at Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people are discussing this, and we've had that discussion on this show about they had no problems clearing out actual peaceful protesters, so Trump could hold a Bible in front of a church, but they couldn't call out the National Guard to clear out actual armed terrorists. And I'm going to keep calling them that because this is how I'm viewing them, because this is how they need to be viewed. They're not protesters, they're not a mob, they're either terrorists or insurrectionists, one of the two, and that's how they should be labeled. These are not protesters, and they should not be labeled as such. And for those individuals who label them as such, they need to get with the program. So this is I'm done being nice about that situation. But you've got actual people committing violence. And if you remember, there was that tweet that Trump printed out that anyone attacking and doing damage to federal buildings should spend at least 10 years in jail. I'm expecting to see each and every one of these individuals in jail for a minimum of 10 years for doing this to the Capitol. Um, I want to play this. This is Trump went on Twitter and he um, did a 1 minute video to try to calm his followers. So let me play this.
Your pain, you hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home and go home in peace.
Your thoughts? So, what are your thoughts on his call to calm people? And the fact that he couldn't even just ask for a peaceful thing without throwing in more fuel to that fire. Because it's not going if you ask them to go home, which they shouldn't be able to go home, they should be in jail, but to ask them to just go home, it wasn't enough for him. He had to throw more kerosene onto that fire because of his, I don't ego or his rage, or I don't get it. I don't, that's the thing is because I listened to Biden's speech while we were getting ready for all of this. Biden went on and did a speech, and he was well, he was a president, and he asked Trump to come on national TV and to say, "Hey, you know, tell him to stop and everything." And then he does something like this, and it's basically it doesn't do anything. It makes it worse because all he's doing because A, they're not looking at their Twitter, or if they are, they're posting, photo ops of them taking over the Capitol and everything. There's so many probably selfies on parlay right now of them, look at what I've done, which will be great when they're hauled up in front of a jury or a judge and saying, here's the proof, you know, thank you. People don't understand what that does, but that gives, you take photos of what you're doing, and all that does is just gives proof to the prosecution saying, "Look what they've done." They gave us the proof. They were right there. There's the selfie of them in the Senate chamber. Um, no, it makes I don't understand it. And these are the individuals that for years were law and order, were Blue Lives Matter, was all of that kind of stuff. As soon as none of that works for them, as soon as they think that they're being cheated by the system in some way, they throw all of that out the window, and they want to be and they and basically they will do a fascism, and I don't use that word lightly as far when it comes to this, but they basically that's what Trump is trying to do. That's what the 12 senators was trying to do, and the hundred and something Congress members that were trying to set up this stuff was trying to do today before this blew up to what it is as far as the insurrection happened was that they were trying to basically do a fascism and mm, right. uh yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. That that's correct. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is a setback. It'll be certified in a day or two once things settle down. It may not be certified until Monday of next week, but it'll be certified. They can't stop the certification. There is a contingency. They just don't have it right. I'm sure there's a contingency in case this it keeps up. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Hmm. Yeah. Well, on Twitter, mhm, there's they That's a little terrifying. That's terrifying. Why do I suddenly get pictures of the Reichstag being burnt in my head? I know I'm using that kinda imagery, but I'm trying to drive a point. Uh, but it's yeah, it's very much, that's what but the thing is protections that we have situation because, uh, this is just insane. I've I someone said I've never thought I would see this in my lifetime, and it's like, well, I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime either, but I was just here we are. There's I was I forwarded some tweets of them taking selfies with those Capitol Police. So I was like, yeah, so I wasn't completely shocked at now as far as the Secret Service and stuff. Here's the thing.
Members can support on both sides.
Well, it's clearly something we're going to continue to discuss and to report on because it matters so much, John Hart. I do want to read before we go to our next.
Right. Right. No, they should be labeled for what they are, is what well, there was a Wolf Blitzer came on and it's like, and basi Wolf Blitzer came on and basically said it's like I wonder it's something about these are people are so stupid that they don't realize that they're going to be going to jail soon. But they may not. That's the problem. And that's what a lot of people are also
Election
saying,
that
especially
was
on the Black Lives Matter side, and people of color are saying, if we had done something like this, we wouldn't be breathing right now. And that's something that we need to, we as a nation need to address, and that, where to I let me rephrase, I am a cis heterosexual white male, and I know my privilege. So me speaking about this, I am speaking in a place of privilege. But
I know your pain.
I can
I know
see
you're hurt.
oh,
We
great.
had an
Did Trump
election
come out
that
on
was
national television?
stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone
Right.
knows it,
Let me see
especially
if
the
I can
other
see a
side.
transcript.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to.
Right. Yeah, that's what he said. Right. It was about correct. So the badass uh congressman or a house candidate from uh Texas, the one with the eye patch, the one that was jumping out of the airplane for the Georgia campaign and stuff. He just posted something, "Stop this bullshit now." It's like you were one of the people that were stoking this fire. It's like God Almighty. Oh, and I'm so Representative Omar has just posted about 40 minutes ago. So she's safe, which a lot of people were concerned about because she is one of their people of ire. Yeah. I am drawing up articles of impeachment. Donald J. Trump should be impeached by the House of Representatives and removed from his office by the United States Senate. He cannot be allowed to remain in office. This is a matter of preserving our republic, and we need to fulfill our oaths. I honestly think they should like force him out using Article 25. Well, if he is inciting insurrection, technically he is. See, that's where things get a little, because he's basically. I know it's technically impeachment still. The way some of from what I've been reading, it can be used that way if he is trying to cite insurrection, because at that point, right, right, right. Yeah, I know. Which, by the way, that is some good news. And I want to make this very clear. This was not anybody. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Stacey Abrams is our new Captain America. She's an amazing woman. What she did for Georgia to make sure that Georgia flipped is, they stole that election from her, and they have regretted it ever since. They stole if they had not has stolen that gubernatorial election from her, this may have not all happened, but I think this is the best thing that has happened to this nation because they made her angry and she went out and she made a difference. And I don't want to hear that this was Bernie Sanders. I don't want to hear that this was Biden. I don't want to hear that this was anybody else but her that made this difference. Because I've heard, yeah. So yeah, she's been a firebrand to make sure that people got out to vote, that she got people registered to vote, and that's the big thing is just that huge push to make sure people get registered to vote. And she hit the ground running in 2019 to get that happening, to make sure that they didn't get expunged and make sure that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed, which I think is something that the party needs to look at as a whole and say, okay, we need to do this on off election years to go and do this push and not wait until there's a election year, because every year is an election year, basically. But right. Well, I mean, I don't like Tom Tillis, and I disagree with a lot of his stuff, and he's a smarmy asshole. But on the same thing, uh, I will say this: he's not been one of those guys that has been completely a Trump supporter all the way. He did distance himself from Trump. It would be different. He's not Dan Forest. For those in North Carolina. And I think that's one of the reasons why Dan Forest really didn't stand a chance in North Carolina, because Trump won the state, but Trump's not hugely popular in this state for overall. So, and Dan Forest just didn't have the name power anyway. So, but yeah, no, Tillis has not been a huge, like bandwagon Trump supporter. So I think I'll give him that. And this was somebody we were going to talk about with our show of good things of 2020, um, was Mitt Romney has been all over the past few days about this, even before I don't know if he said anything lately. I need to take a look, but he's been attacked by multiple people and stuff like that and everything else. And you know what? I'd accept him into the Democratic Party. He would be a conservative Democrat, and I'm okay with that. But he stands by his principles, and he always has. And I respect him for that. And he's never been, and he's been very vocal about this situation and how Trump has been feeding into this, and he saw this coming too. So, yeah, I saw that. I just saw that. Hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, and it's just, I just saw that video you were talking about the Capitol Police opening up I mean, literally just opening up the barricades. Oh, jeez. So, oh, I'm seeing. Nope. I'm looking at. I'm seeing a longer one where they opened it up and moved him to the side, and then moved out of the way and is walking them towards the Capitol. I just posted it on Facebook. So yeah, yeah. But basically, yeah, they just opened it up and just walked him and let him through. And now they're destroying. Yeah. and now they're attacking the media. I'm seeing different videos of them attacking the media in different places. I yeah. It's just it's there is a video of a guy walking past the Lincoln, portrait carrying a Confederate flag. It only took them 200 and something it only took them 100 and something years, but they finally were able to the Confederate flag was finally able to fly in the Capitol. Oh my god. Alright, so what do we do about this? So, I remember us talking initially about how there needed to be or how I said that I felt that there needed to be, some accountability. What do we do? What needs to be done to make this so this doesn't happen again? Do we treat Trump as a leader of a terrorist organization? Yep. Because if you listen to his speeches, and if you listen to like the speeches of some of the terrorists in the Middle East, or the terrorists in other parts of the world, there's a lot of the same rhetoric. It's so yeah, he should be treated as a terrorist of the state, and he should be treated accordingly. And anyone who supported him should be treated accordingly. That is going to be a huge reckoning, and it is going to be a big deal because that's going to send some waves. I'm afraid, and I don't know if I hope we're brave enough, but I don't know if we are brave enough for that because that sets up a precedent, though. That's my fear. Is it does set up a bit of a That's true. I agree. I bullshit. Yeah, and see, that's the now we're kind of on different. I remember this conversation before Christmas where we were having our hopes and dreams discussion. And it's like there needs to be some accountability, and you were like, "Well, we have to be very careful about that." And I'm like, "You're like, we need to crush this," and I'm like, "We need to be careful about how we crush this." And I'm just it's interesting how this is kind of changed a little. I was just like, because I agree with you. This needs to be put down, and this needs to be handled. But and this needs to be there needs to be a firm message put. But it's one of those things where if it is not done and with the most deftest of hands and done in a very surgical way, it can turn out very badly, and it could be used in a very it could be done in a way that could be used in a different way to where if anybody protests anything at that point, "Oh, you incited insurrection," kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? It has to be done in a very surgical way to make sure that it's very specific to the situation versus it being, it can't be broad. Because once it goes broad, then like the BLM movements, and if someone supports that, then then at that point, then the same judgment applies to that individual, which is completely different. Or like in 2016, where there was those protests against the Trump winning, but there were peaceful protests and everything, how they could then shift that and say, hey, you know, you did this, so we have the same right to do this. And I have seen this already. There are some people saying, well, you guys did protest when Trump won. And I want to say, yes, we did protest when Trump won. We didn't storm the Capitol with guns. He does. Oh, I'm with you. I am extremely angry and extremely frustrated that it got to this point, and there were people like us that were saying, "We need to watch this. We need to be careful. This is going to go too far. This is the outcome." There were a lot of people trying to sound alarm bells for many years, this show being one of them, saying, "We need to be careful. We are in a very precarious situation, and if we're not careful, we are going to have some serious problems when he loses, if he loses, or if he wins another 4 years, and then it's coming up to the end of his cycle. What's going to happen at that point? Because he's not going to want to give up office then either. you know we were sounding those alarm bells. A lot of people were sounding those alarm bells, and we weren't listened to by the populace as a whole. And now because of that, we're at this point where people weren't taking us seriously. Proud Boys were a terrorist organization. The Southern Poverty Center had been calling them a terrorist organization for years, you know, and people were saying, mhm, mhm. It's only yeah, it's so I'm gonna read this quote, and you've probably remember this quote. This is 10 months ago. This is Susan Collins during the last impeachment hearing. I believe that the president has learned from this case. The president has been impeached, and that's a pretty big lesson. Thanks, Susan. Thanks. Thanks for thinking he would have learned. He did learn the lesson that he could get away with it. That's all? So, yeah, I yeah, so, yeah, a lot of people are posting that about, Mitch McConnell saying that, and then shortly afterwards, here we are, about you know, our democracy will enter a death spiral, if Congress keeps going the way they were going with this whole charade at this point. I don't here's right. The even Mhm, I understand. I will say this, the evangelical yes. So, I'm going to say this, and I'm gonna give people some hope. First off, we have the Senate, we have the Congress, and we have the presidency, and it will go through. I do believe our republic is stronger than what's happened today. I believe our nation is stronger than what's happened today. And I do believe in the better angels of this nation. I believe that we will get through this and we will be a better nation. Once we see the ugliness of this nation, we will be able to improve because we have seen this and there will be no way but to improve. I have faith in that. That is why I do this show. I don't do this show because I like to hear myself talk. I do this show because I believe in my heart of hearts that at the end of all of this, we are a better place and we are a better group of people and we can do better and that we are better and that this end of the day eh, will be better. So I won't sign off. I want to thank you for joining us at this special. Thank you, September, for being with me while we did this. I wish you best. Get some rest, turn off the news, turn off everything, watch some TV. That isn't the news. Play some video games. Play Cyberpunk. Yeah, play Go so yeah, Bless your hearts.